Hello and welcome to the 37th episode of the Special Needs Voice podcast. My name is Aaron. Our goal with this podcast is simple: to share the stories and perspectives from the top leaders in our special needs community. By the conclusion of each episode, we hope you have laughed at least once, learned something new, and are better equipped to handle your next challenge. Today, Director of Special Needs Services, Randy Gillespie, will be speaking with Emily Raclaw. Emily is the Director of Marquette University's On Your Marq, a college success program designed to support neurodivergent students as they navigate college and campus life. The program serves over 80 students and offers a wide range of resources tailored to help the students learn in ways that work best for them. On Your Marq was recently recognized as a 2025 Program of the Year by the College Autism Network. In this episode, Emily shares how her personal and professional background led her to her role with On Your Marq, as well as how the program has helped reshape the way individuals and their families think about success in college.
I am so happy to introduce and have Emily Raclaw on our podcast today. Emily is the director of Marquette University's On Your Marq program, and On Your Marq program is nationally recognized and was chosen by IvyWise as one of the best college success programs designed to assist neurodivergent students. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
I'm so glad to be here.
So let's dive right into the questions. As a neurodivergent individual with over 20 years of experience in disability education, can you please share how your own personal story and your journey influenced your decision to lead On Your Marq at Marquette?
Okay, first of all, when we say 20 years, that makes me feel very old, but here we are.
Well, I can verify. I'm looking at you and you are so not.
So I didn't get diagnosed till my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s. And so my whole education experience has been basically doing things on hard mode, not realize I've been doing it on hard mode. And so being able to come in with my own past experience, plus having been a teacher and then working in voc rehab, realizing that as a SPED teacher, as a special education teacher, I had best intentions of being able to teach skills and have students practice those skills. But it's not always possible to do that in the K-12 setting when you have so many other demands on it. So while we put supports in place, students usually don't have the chance to practice it independently. So one of the big things about On Your Marq is taking should out of our vocabulary and realizing that it's not a student should be able to do this, it's a student may not be able to do this independently yet. And how do we build skills and scaffold around that so that they can do it independently? It's not that we're necessarily doing anything new. It's taking the skills that they've heard about and maybe practiced a little bit and letting them actually take control of that and see what works well for them.
That's an interesting point, though. Is it challenging, though, to kind of change the focus on what students prior to them joining Marquette, never heard, they always heard the word should. This is what you should do. This is how you should act. This is how you should behave. But then you're coming in, they're coming to your program and you're kind of flipping the script. Is that challenging for them to kind of flip it for themselves, to kind of begin a different sort of path?
It can be challenging because a lot of students think if I don't get an A, then I'm awful. Or If I don't do it just like everybody else, it's the end of the world. And I'm here to tell them, look, I am in my 40s and doing it the way everybody else, quote unquote, everybody else is doing it is exhausting. That leads to burnout. That leads to you are doing things that are counterintuitive to the way your brain and body works. And you're working harder than you need to. So your A that you are busting your butt for could have also be an A that you get when you do half the things you're doing now.
That makes total sense. What are some of the key lessons that you've learned from your background that shaped your approach to supporting neurodivergent students?
I mean, I think a lot of it was like a lot of the students I work with, it's a lot of doing, I want to do it exactly like the professor said, you're supposed to do it this way. And I'm like, that's the rule. And that rule doesn't work for how my brain works, right? And so thinking about what an actual rule is and what is a recommendation and being able to recognize that and apply it, right, in the right settings. It's about communication, right? So it's about learning that I communicate differently than neurotypical people do and being able to thrive in an environment that puts so much on sounding smart, right? And making things sound more complicated than they are, and having students be able to take a step back and treat it like it's a foreign language sort of, and you are then translating it to something else. And so a lot of students be like, yes, I got to sign this essay and it's due in 3 weeks. Awesome. And the instructions might be detailed, but messy, right? And have maybe not enough of the actual details and just a lot of, this is the concept of it. And having them learn to translate that into something that makes sense for their brain. That's what I do every day. Every day at work, I get an email or something assigned to me or something I'm supposed to do. And I have to figure out how to do it and translate those steps into something that works for my brain.
To quote you earlier, it must be exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Wow. So you're giving these students these tips, these resources, these supports for, flipping the script, changing their thought process to make their brain maybe not work so hard, but work in a different way. This leads to my next question, which is, could you share some of the daily supports and services offered to the students? And I'm thinking that because of what your entire program does to enhance their success throughout their time at Marquette University, that potentially psychological supports and social work supports might be something that prove to be beneficial for your students. I'm wondering if you can talk about that as well as some of the supports and resources.
The required services that students engage in are executive functioning coaching, mental health support through our clinical mental health counseling interns, as well as our newly hired professional counselor. She has a training license, but she will be fully licensed soon. And then they have peer mentoring, and they have the coolest job. When I grew up, I want to be a peer mentor. They really help the students connect to campus, connect with social circles or things that make college about college. Anybody can go to school, right? But college, honestly, I don't remember a single one of the classes I went to, but I do remember the friends I made. I do remember the events I went to. I do remember those connections. And the good job of the peer mentor is to really help students find what makes sense for them in that way. But our executive functioning coaches, they are the ones that are helping students translate their brains and help them apply and learn strategies that work not only at school, but also in the workplace. Our number one goal is not necessarily graduation, it's employment. All of our students do graduate on time, but our bigger goal is employment. And so far, all of our students have been employed within 6 months of graduation.
Wow. Do they primarily stay in the state of Wisconsin?
It's been a mix. A lot of students are from Chicago suburbs. That's typical Marquette enrollment. And so there's students who will go back to Chicagoland area. Our students have decided to stay here. I had a student who moved out to the West Coast because they wanted to. I have another student in Indiana. So it's just, my whole goal is what's going to make you happy and how can we get you there?
So the real measure of the program's success is obviously, are they going to land a job? Are they going to be successful? Are they going to be happy? Just like anybody actually, neurotypical or not. So what are the reactions of the students and their parents, guardians, who, when they're initially involved enrolled in the program to the end? What does that look like for you as the executive director to see the growth of the students? But in addition, I would assume there is substantial growth and education from the parents' perspective. And do you provide supports for the parents throughout their tenure at Marquette?
Yeah, I think the hardest part, I'm also raising a neurospicy kid myself. So the hardest part is
I love that.
being the parent who is going to the IEP meetings or going to the learning plan meetings and having to advocate and work so hard for your kid to get what they need. And you're super involved. And all of a sudden you're in college, everyone goes, you got to go. Like, it is your kid's show now. That is the hardest thing. And so I try not to kick parents out fully. What I do a lot of is saying, I would prefer, if you have a question about what's going on with your student, please email me, not their assigned coach, because I want to preserve that relationship. Students, for the first time, in a lot of cases, are being able to make their own decisions without heavy influence from someone else. Our coaches I stole this from Peloton, so I don't know copyright, but we make suggestions and they get to make decisions because there's dignity of risk, there's dignity of failure, and you get to make choices, but you were not free from the consequences or the outcomes of those choices. And we help students navigate those pieces. And for parents, a lot of it is, my kid missed an assignment. Okay, they missed a 10-point assignment. They are not going to, it's fine. And if you keep running around behind them and having them try to make it up and do it, how are they going to learn the piece of what happens when you don't do what you are told to do, when you have to meet an expectation?
Yep.
What happens when you fail to meet an expectation? And managing that feeling for yourself of, oh no, or something went wrong. And that piece is such an important skill that a lot of students don't have.
Sure. So your team, do they work and collaborate and communicate with the other Marquette staff? And how does that play? How does everybody play together?
Yeah.
Because I know in typical, like just IEPs sometimes with special education teachers and regular teachers, it's very challenging. I know that this is a way step up, but even then, getting regular teachers to read a portion of an IEP or a few small benchmarks is so challenging. So how are you guys so successful at that collaborative, piece of the puzzle?
I think the biggest thing is that what professors get from students in terms of accommodations, it's a sheet of paper that literally just has the student's name, their ID number, and then what the accommodations are. And that's the only thing the professors has to legally do. Many professors are very supportive and want to support their students and help them be as successful as possible in class, but it's significantly less information for them to read. A lot of the times we are helping students communicate with their professors in an effective way to get the information they need or get additional supports that are within reason for higher ed. And it's a lot of us kind of in the background saying, what are you hoping to get out of this? Or I had a student, for example, the professor was just not responding to email and then was not at office hours. Turned out there was something personal going on in their lives. Everything's good now. But I then was like, are you okay with me emailing the professor and saying, hey, dude, what's going on? And when they give me that permission, we are happy to jump in and say, hey, the student's been emailing you, been trying to get in touch, help us understand what's going on. And if it comes from my office instead of, say, a dean's office or a disability services where it's much more compliance based, they're able to say, oh, I'm not going to be in trouble or whatever if I say I made a mistake. It takes the pressure off. And again, not saying people make mistakes, we're all human and people are going to, oops, right? But taking some of the pressure off of a potential, oh no, I didn't do this right and now I'm going to get in big trouble versus, oh, there was a miscommunication. And how do we repair that?
Yep.
And teaching students how to give grace when people make mistakes and teaching parents how to give grace when a professor isn't responding like a teacher, when I have to explain a teacher is not the same as a professor. And those pieces that things are going to go wrong. And how do we cope when things go wrong? Because that's life. It's messy.
Life is messy. Coping skills, life skills. This is where it all should happen. This is where all the learning should be.
It's very safe. It's like college is a big deal and it's a very safe environment to have little failures in. It's a very safe environment to experience a big, like kind of a big mess up too. Like you can, in a perfect world, students never fail a class. But if a student fails a class, you can retake it and it replaces the grade in a lot of universities, right? And you can learn from what happened there. Or you can have an internship and maybe it doesn't go well, maybe it goes great, but what you learned is I need these kind of supports in the workplace.
That's right.
And I think the way I lead the program is I'm not afraid for there to be mistakes made. I'm not afraid for there to be mistakes made, and I'm not afraid to stand behind students when they make a bigger mistake or a smaller mistake and say, okay, judgment free, now what? We can try to we can say ahead of time, if it were me, this is what I would do. Here's potentially what the outcomes could be. What decision would you like to make? And then I respect the autonomy of the adult in front of me making that decision.
I love that answer. What advice would you give to other universities, colleges that are looking to develop similar programs for their neurodivergent population? Now, there are a lot of programs out there. I want to know that answer, but I want to know, just because I'm a big fan of Marquette, what stands out with your program that might be different from another program? What makes yours unique? And then what are some things that you would share to other universities looking to develop a program?
I think that's a very hard question because most programs at universities are built to match the culture of that university, right?
Okay.
So Marquette, with the Jesuit principles of cura personalis and really the care for the whole person, is why it was important for me to include not only the academic side and the social side, but also the career side and making sure every part of a student's life is cared for within our program within reason. We are not obviously a one-stop shop. We help them navigate campus because in life there's not a one-stop shop. But I wanted to make sure that those Jesuit principles were embedded into our programming as well. Programs across the country, I am a big fan of the majority of the programs in the country because I want students to choose a university that fits them rather than this is a program I want, but I don't really like this college as much. I want students to say, for example, St. Joe's, another Jesuit, has an amazing program as well. And if a student wants to go to St. Joe's because they want St. Joe's, I'd rather have them go there than come to Marquette because they like me better, right? So when I think about starting a program, have it be in line with your campus culture. because the students that you're supporting are going to be students of that university first. And so if you treat them as in you are kind of a college student, but really you belong to this program, the othering continues. Students aren't going to want to engage, and it's not going to be supportive. More than anything else, our students come in and say, I'm sick of feeling like I'm different. I'm sick of not fitting in. And I'm the person saying, well, I'm weird, so good luck with that part. But I hear you.
You do, and you hear them. You're perfect for this role. I cannot thank you enough for your time, your energy, your enthusiasm, and your information for the On Your Marq program at Marquette. Emily, thank you so much for being a part of our program. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. I had such a fun time.
Thank you for listening. Please refer to the show notes on how to connect with Emily. If you would like to suggest a guest for a future podcast, please email me at aaron@oakwealth.com. See you next time.